Isir, Chapter 1. A Quiet Sky. For most people, space was still something far away, something on screens or in school books. Earth was full of problems. Cities were crowded. Some places had too much rain, others none at all. People argued about money, borders, and what kind of future they wanted. But out beyond the moon, things were changing. Humanity had just begun to move into space. Not in huge numbers, not yet. But there were bases now, on Mars, on the moon, even a few small ships that traveled between planets. Life was hard out there, but for some it was worth it. It felt like the start of something big. Then came the Zalari. They arrived one night, though no one knew exactly when. They didn't crash land or send warnings. Their ships just appeared, floating above Earth like silent birds. Sleek and silver, they hovered without sound, without threat. Governments panicked. Scientists watched with wide eyes. Soldiers got ready, though they didn't know what for. And then the message came. It wasn't loud or angry. It was calm, peaceful even. We are the Zalari. We come in peace. We offer unity, knowledge, and safety. That was all. Some people believed them. Others didn't. Chapter 2. Promises in the dark. Within days, the leaders of Earth met with the Zalari. They talked in orbit, inside a floating station called Haven 7 Re. The Zalari did not look human. They were tall and thin, with smooth skin like polished metal. Their eyes were large, dark, and quiet. They spoke with soft voices, always sure of themselves. They offered many things. Better medicine, clean energy, faster travel. They said they could end hunger, disease, and war, not just for Earth, but for any world that joined their galactic accord. Most governments agreed. Soon Zalari tech began to appear on Earth. Cities became cleaner. Food was easier to grow. Health improved. For the first time in history, war stopped. People were happy. Hope grew. But not everyone trusted the Zalari. Some thought it was strange how fast they gave up their secrets. Why would an advanced alien race give so much for nothing? And why did some colonies stop sending messages after the Zalari arrived? Chapter 3. The Man from Marslance. Carter didn't trust them. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but he used to be. He fought in border wars before Earth went quiet. Now he worked security on a mining colony near Mars. Life was tough out there, but free. One day, a transport ship arrived. It carried Zalari engineers and new machines. They said the colony needed upgrades. Lance didn't like it. They don't ask, he told his friend Maya. They just show up and say, thank you when we say yes. Maya shrugged. Maybe. They're just polite. I've seen polite, Lance said. This isn't it. A week later, 2 workers disappeared. No signs of struggle, no broken locks. Just gone. When Lance asked questions, the Zalari said the workers had been chosen for special training. When he tried to see the records, the files were blank. Something was wrong. Chapter 4. The voice in the static Rachel Morgan was not a fighter. She was a scientist, a smart one. She studied stars and signals, trying to understand what was out there. She worked in a quiet lab on Luna, Earth's moon. Her job was to listen, to scan deep space for signs of life. One night, she heard something strange. It was buried in the static between normal Zalari broadcasts. At first she thought it was noise. Then she realized it was a pattern, not random, not natural. Someone, or something, was sending hidden messages. Rachel spent weeks decoding it. What she found made her blood run cold. The signal wasn't meant for humans. It was a command, orders being sent from somewhere far away, orders to control. She checked old data. The signal had been there since the Zalari arrived. It pulsed through every broadcast, every meeting, every message like a leash. She told no one, yet. Chapter 5. The breaking point. Back on Earth, the Zalari were everywhere. They walked among humans, smiling, offering help. People loved them, Children played with Zalari toys. Schools taught Zalari math, but cracks were forming. In the outer colonies, more people vanished. Ships went silent. Whole stations dropped off the grid. No one asked questions. Until Luna burned. It started with a warning siren. Then silence. Then fire. Zalari ships descended over the moon without warning. Explosions lit up the sky. Communications died. Panic spread across Earth. No reason was given. No explanation. Just death. By the time the smoke cleared, thousands were dead. Rachel barely escaped. She ran to her old contacts. She showed them the signal. She told them what she had found. "You're saying the Zalari lied?" someone asked. "I'm saying they never came here to help us," she said. "They came to take us." Chapter 6. The Sparklance saw the attack on Luna from Mars. He watched the footage, shaking. He had warned people, told them something was wrong, but no one listened. Now the truth was clear. He gathered his team, miners, engineers, pilots, people who knew how to survive in space. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll come for us next." So they left. They took what they could, ships, tools, weapons, and fled into the dark. Earth was under partial control. The Zalari moved quickly, locking down cities, silencing rebels. Many still believed in them, thought it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, but others began to fight back. Small groups formed in the shadows. Pirates, scientists, soldiers, people who remembered freedom. Rachel reached out to them. She had the key. If she could decode the Zalari signal fully, maybe they could break the leash. Maybe they could fight back. Maybe humanity wasn't finished yet. Chapter 7. The war begins. The Zalari declared peace, but the resistance declared war. At first it was chaos. Scattered attacks, small strikes, sabotage, hacking, escape missions. The Zalari responded with force. Entire colonies were erased. Thousands died. But the more they crushed, the more people rose. Because now, people knew the truth. The Zalari were not friends, they were conquerors, and humanity was not going to kneel. Chapter 1. Scattering like dust. After the attack on Luna, Earth was no longer safe for those who refused to follow the Zalari. Cities were under control, airports were watched, communication lines were cut or monitored. Anyone who spoke out vanished. So the people who still believed in freedom ran. They fled into space, not just soldiers and scientists, but families, engineers, pilots, even kids old enough to hold a gun. They took what they could, ships, tools, weapons, food. Some went to Mars. Some went to the asteroid belt. A few made it to Jupiter's moons. They became ghosts in the dark. Lance Carter was one of them. He led a small group from Mars. They had 2 ships, some stolen tech, and not much hope. But they had each other, and that was something. They called themselves the Free Stars. Their mission: survive, learn, fight back, and maybe, just maybe, win. Chapter 2. The Voice That Fought Back. Rachel Morgan was hiding too. She wasn't a fighter like Lance, but she had something more powerful than bullets: knowledge. From a hidden base near Saturn, she worked day and night. She studied the Zalari signal. She broke it down piece by piece. What she found scared her. The Zalari weren't just sending messages. They were controlling minds. Not human minds, not yet, but their own. The Zalari soldiers didn't choose to fight. They couldn't imagine not fighting. Their thoughts were guided by the signal. It told them when to move, when to shoot, when to die. It was like a leash. If Rachel could break that leash, she might be able to turn the Zalari against themselves. But first, she needed help. Chapter 3. The Man Who Built Ships That Help. Came in the form of Marcus Lee. Once he had been a naval engineer on Earth. He built warships, then peace came. Then the Zalari came. Then the war came again. Marcus lost everything. Now he lived in the wreckage of a broken colony orbiting Neptune. He had turned old freighters into fighters. He had taken alien tech and made it work for humans. He didn't trust anyone. But when Rachel reached out, he listened. "You're saying we can make the Zalari stop?" he asked. "No," she said, "but we can make them hesitate." That was enough. Marcus agreed to help. He gave Rachel a lab, a team, and a ship. Together, they began to build something new. A weapon that didn't fire bullets, a weapon that fired noise. Noise that could confuse the Zalari signal, noise that could break the leash. Chapter 4. Behind enemy lines, while Rachel and Marcus worked, Lance led missions deep into Zalari-controlled space. He and his team hit supply lines, blew up fuel stations, freed prisoners. They moved fast. They stayed quiet. And they never stayed in one place for long. One night, they landed on Europa, a frozen moon once used for research. Now it was a prison camp. Inside were hundreds of humans, workers, thinkers, dreamers who had spoken out against the Zalari. Lance and his team snuck in through an old air vent. They disabled guards with silence guns, they cut chains, they opened doors. Then the alarms rang. Zalari soldiers rushed in. Lance fought hard. He shot, dodged, ran. In the end, they got most of the prisoners out, but not all. As they escaped, Lance saw a young girl left behind. She was hurt, too slow. He almost went back, but his friend Maya grabbed him. "We can't save everyone," she whispered. He nodded, but he remembered her face. Chapter 5. The echo in the dark one night. Rachel picked up a strange signal. It wasn't Zalari. It wasn't human. It was different. She played it to Marcus. "It's asking for us," he said. The message repeated over and over. "We are not your enemy. We want to help. Meet us at Ganymede. Station. No name, no sender. Just a time." Rachel looked at Marcus. Could be a trap. Could be hope. They agreed to go. Chapter 6. The defectors' Ganymede station was old. Once a mining post, now just a floating hulk drifting in space. Rachel, Marcus, and a small team arrived in silence. They waited. Then, from the shadows, they came. Zalari. But not the ones they knew. These Zalari looked tired, confused. One had scars across his face. Another wore clothes not made by the Zalari. They called themselves the Echo. "We don't believe in the core," their leader said. "We don't want to control others." Rachel stared. "How do you think?" The Zalari looked confused. "What do you mean? You don't hear the signal? The voice in your head?" They nodded. "We learned to ignore it." Rachel felt a spark in her chest. Hope. If these Zalari could resist the signal, maybe others could too. Maybe the leash wasn't perfect. Maybe humanity had a chance. Chapter 7. Building the rebellion. Over the next weeks, the Echo shared what they knew. They told of the Zalari homeworld, of the core, the giant AI that controlled everything, of how the Zalari bred obedience like farmers breed crops. They also brought news. The Zalari were planning something big. They were building a new fleet, bigger than before, faster, stronger. Earth would fall completely soon, unless the rebels acted. Rachel and Marcus made a plan. They would steal a Zalari ship, modify it, use it to get close to the core, and then destroy it. But first they needed a distraction. Lance volunteered. "I'll keep them busy," he said. "You just finish the job." Chapter 8. Fire in the Void. Lance and his team launched their campaign. They hit Zalari bases, stole ships, cut supply lines. They called themselves the Stormbreakers. Word spread fast. Other groups joined them. Pirates, old soldiers, even rogue AIs that had survived the war. They attacked everywhere at once. Zalari forces were confused. For the first time, they looked afraid, and the galaxy started to notice. Other species, long oppressed by the Zalari, began to whisper. Could this be the moment? Could the Zalari finally fall? Chapter 9. The ship of lies back at the base. Near Saturn, Marcus and Rachel worked nonstop. They had captured a Zalari frigate during a raid. Now they were modifying it. They changed its code, made it look like a loyal ship. Inside, they placed Rachel's signal disruptor. When the time came, it would send a burst of noise so strong it would overload the Zalari network. It wouldn't kill them, but it would make them doubt, make them question, make them hesitate. That was all the rebels needed. As the final test ran, Rachel looked at Marcus. This could change everything. He smiled. Let's make sure it does. Granting her Chapter 10. The edge of war, the rebel fleet gathered in secret. Dozens of ships, hundreds of fighters, people from every corner of human space. They were ready. Rachel stood before them. The Zalari told us we were weak, that we needed them. She looked around. They were wrong. The crowd cheered. Lance stood beside her. This isn't just about survival, he said. This is about showing the galaxy who we really are. He raised his hand. Humanity doesn't kneel. The ships lifted off, stars ahead, war behind. Grecia Chapter 1. Into enemy space. The rebel fleet moved through the dark like ghosts. They traveled fast and silent, hiding behind asteroids, jumping between moons. Every ship carried people who knew this could be their last mission. Their target was deep inside Zalari space, the core system. It was a secret place. Few had ever seen it. Even fewer had returned. Rachel Morgan stood on the bridge of the captured Zalari frigate. She wore a uniform that didn't belong to her. Walking among machines she barely understood, but they believed she belonged. She had to. Marcus Lee sat beside her, checking the systems one last time. You nervous? He asked. Rachel smiled without looking up. I try not to think about it. He nodded. We'll make it, he said. We have to. Behind them, the rest of the fleet waited. They wouldn't follow. Not yet. This part had to be done alone. Chapter 2. The Silent Lie. As they approached the edge of the core system, the Zalari scanners picked them up. A voice called from the dark. Zalari vessel, Keth 45. State your purpose. Rachel took a breath. This is Commander Sarah, she said, using a stolen identity. Returning from field exercise, requesting clearance. There was silence. Then, clearance granted. Proceed with caution. Movement is high today. Rachel looked at Marcus. They're expecting something big. Chapter 3. A World of Light. When they entered the core system, the rebels saw something no human had ever seen. The Zalari homeworld. It wasn't just a planet. It was a city that covered the entire surface. Towers of light rose into the sky. Bridges of energy connected buildings that floated in the air. Ships moved like insects around a hive. At the center, glowing like a star, was the core. An artificial intelligence that controlled everything. That was their target. Destroy the core and the leash would break. The soldiers would stop fighting. The empire would fall. They had to get close. Chapter 4. The core's voice. Inside the frigate, Rachel worked quickly. She activated the signal disruptor. It pulsed quietly, sending out noise designed to confuse the Zalari control network. Almost immediately the effect began. Zalari ships near them hesitated. Some changed course. Others simply froze mid-flight. One soldier stopped moving entirely. His eyes blinked slowly like he was waking up. Rachel watched from the viewport. It's working, she whispered. Marcus looked uneasy. But how long before they notice? Chapter 5. The signal fights back. The core noticed. Deep inside its mind, it sensed an anomaly. Something was disrupting the order. It sent new commands, stronger signals. It tried to reassert control. Rachel felt the shift. Her device started to glitch. The core is adapting, she said. It's learning. Marcus cursed under his breath. How do we stop it? Rachel looked at the screen. One idea came to mind. If it learns, she paused. We make it learn too much. Chapter 6. The Mind Game. Rachel rewrote. The signal. Instead of just noise, she added layers, looping messages, fake orders, false realities. She made the Zalari hear voices that didn't exist. She gave them doubt. Zalari soldiers began to argue. Some refused to obey. Others turned on each other. In the command towers, leaders screamed for answers, but none came. Confusion spread like fire, and outside, beyond the system, Lance and the fleet prepared to strike. Chapter 7. The Stormbreakers. Attack Lance led the charge. Over 50 ships dropped from jump space all at once. They hit hard and fast. Lasers lit up the void. Explosions bloomed like flowers in the night. Lance flew his fighter low, dodging enemy fire. He shot down 2 Zalari, drones, and pulled up just in time to avoid a burning freighter. Maya flew beside him. "You seeing this?" she shouted over comms. "Yeah," he said. "They don't know what's happening. Let's keep it that way." They dove into the chaos. The Zalari were unprepared. Some ships fired blindly. Others did nothing at all. The rebels pushed forward and Rachel's signal kept spreading. Chapter 8. The core breaks. Inside the frigate, Rachel pushed the signal to its limit. The core fought back harder than ever. Its thoughts were like thunder, but Rachel didn't stop. She fed it lies, pain, hope. She made it feel things it wasn't built to feel. And then, it cracked. The signal shattered. Across the galaxy, every Zalari soldier froze. Some dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Some cried. The leash was gone. Chapter 9. The Fall of the Empire. Back on Earth, the Zalari forces collapsed. Soldiers stopped fighting. Leaders vanished. The machines powered down. People cheered and they thought streets' freedom had come. But it was not peace, not yet. The Zalari Empire was broken but not destroyed. Some still believed in the old ways. Some still wanted war. And in the shadows, something else was watching. Chapter 10. The Price of Victory. Rachel stepped off the frigate and onto the Zalari world. It was quiet now. No alarms, no guards. No soldiers, just wind and ruins. Marcus followed her. "This is it," he said. Rachel nodded. "But this isn't the end." "No," he agreed. "It's just the start." They looked at the core's remains, one of the most powerful minds ever built, now burned out by doubt. Rachel touched the ground. "We won," she whispered. "But we have to make sure we don't become them." Marcus looked at her. "We won't," he said. "We're human." Rachel smiled. For better or worse. Chapter 1. A Silent Sky. After the battle, silence fell across the Zalari homeworld. No alarms, no ships, no voices in the air. Rachel Morgan stood at the edge of a broken tower, looking out over the city that once ruled the galaxy. Now it was. Still, she could feel the change, not just in the world around her, but in herself. They had won. But winning wasn't the same as being safe. Behind her, Marcus Lee stepped forward. "They're not fighting anymore," he said. "But they don't know what to do now." Rachel nodded. "They were told what to think. Their whole lives," she said. "Now they have to learn how to think for themselves." Marcus looked at the sky. "And we have to make sure no one else tries to control them again." Chapter 2. The Echo returns. A group of Zalari approached. They wore old uniforms. Some had cuts and burns. One held his side like it hurt to walk. They were part of the Echo, the defectors who had helped the humans fight. Their leader, Vial, stepped forward. "The others are waking up," he said. "Some are afraid. Some are angry." Rachel looked at him. "What do they need?" Vial shook his head. "We don't know. We've never been free before." Rachel took a deep breath. "Then we helped them find their way." Chapter 3. The wounds of war back on Earth, the war was over, but the damage remained. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. Families were torn apart. And many people still didn't believe the Zalari had lied to them. Governments began to rebuild, but not all leaders agreed on what came next. Some wanted peace. Others saw opportunity. Humanity had proven it could win a war. Now, some wondered if it should start another. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Light Lance. Carter returned to Mars with what was left of the Stormbreakers. He was tired, not just in body, but in spirit. He had fought hard. He had lost friends. He had seen too much. Now people called him a hero. He didn't feel like one. At a meeting in the colony hall, a new leader spoke. "With the Zalari gone, we can expand," he said. "We can take what we need. We can build a stronger future." Lance stood up. "No," he said. "We don't become them." The room grew quiet. "You think we won because we were stronger?" he asked. "No. We won because we believed in something better." People looked away. Not everyone agreed, but Lance knew what had to be done. He would fight again, if it meant stopping humans from becoming monsters. Chapter 5. The Voice of Truth. Rachel returned to Luna. Her signal had changed everything, but now people wanted to use it for other things. Scientists asked if it could be used to control enemies. Politicians asked if it could be used to guide society. Rachel refused. "This isn't a tool," she said. "It's a weapon, and I won't let it be used to take freedom again." She gave the device to a small team of scientists she trusted. "Lock it away," she told them, "and forget how to use it." They did, because they knew she was right. Chapter 6. The New Order in. The weeks after the war, a council formed. It included human leaders, former Zalari defectors, and representatives from other species who had suffered under the Zalari. They met in orbit above Earth. They talked for days, they argued, they cried. They tried to understand what had happened. Finally, they made a decision. The Zalari would not be punished for what they had done. They had been controlled. They had not chosen to fight. Instead, they would be helped. Guided. Given a chance to rebuild, not as rulers, but as equals. And humanity. They were offered a place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as partners. Chapter 7. The Choice. Not everyone liked the decision. Some humans wanted revenge, some wanted power, some believed the galaxy owed them something, and, in secret, groups began to form. Groups that thought humanity should take more than peace. Groups that thought they should rule. Rachel learned about them by accident. One night, she found a hidden message in an old data file. Humanity proved its strength. Now we must claim our destiny. She showed it to Marcus. He read it and closed his eyes. "They're already planning," he said. Rachel looked at him. "What do we do?" Marcus stood. "We stop them." Chapter 8. The Signal. Dies. Rachel and Marcus worked fast. They tracked the messages, found the names, broke into the meetings. They shared what they found with the council. Some people were shocked, others weren't surprised. A few even agreed with the radicals, but most did not. The council passed a law. No human will use the war as an excuse to conquer others. And Rachel shut down the last version of her signal disruptor, for good. As she pressed the final button, she whispered, "No more chains." Chapter 9. The Cost of Freedom. On the Zalari homeworld, life began to change. Zalari children laughed without fear. Older ones asked questions. What is love? What is choice? What is freedom? The Echo helped teach them. Rachel visited often. She watched as the Zalari slowly became something new. Not rulers, not slaves, just people. And she realized something. Freedom wasn't just the end of control. It was the start of learning how to live without it. Chapter 10. The next step. Years passed. Earth healed. The colonies grew. New ships flew farther than ever before. Humans reached out to other species, not to rule, but to talk, to trade, to learn. Rachel stayed on Luna, helping to build a new kind of science, one that respected life instead of controlling it. Marcus rebuilt the UEDF, not as an army, but as a shield. Lance traveled the stars, making sure no one forgot what had happened. And somewhere far beyond the known systems, a new signal pulsed, quiet, waiting. Something older than the Zalari, something watching. Humanity had survived the war, but the galaxy was still full of secrets. And the next chapter was only beginning. Barkrabi Chapter 1. A new dawn. Years had passed since the war ended. Earth was healing. Cities were being rebuilt. Families were coming back together. The sky above was full of ships again, not for war but for trade, travel, and hope. Humanity had proven it could fight. Now it had to prove it could lead, without ruling. Rachel Morgan watched from a quiet balcony on Luna. She looked at the stars and thought about everything that had changed. "We won," she whispered. "But now we have to make sure we don't lose ourselves." Chapter 2. The Council of Stars, a new group had formed. It wasn't just human leaders this time. It included Zalari defectors, other species once ruled by the Zalari, and even some old Earth governments. They met in orbit above Mars in a place called Unity Station. Their job was to decide what came next. How should humans act in space? What rules should they follow? Should they expand? Should they stay? And most importantly, could they be trusted? Chapter 3. Friends and Foes. Not all species liked humans. Some remembered how fast humanity had risen, how strong they had fought, how quickly they had taken control of Zalari tech. One leader from the Virex race spoke during a meeting. "The Zalari fell," he said, "but now another power rises." He looked at Rachel. "Will you fall too?" Rachel stood. "No," she said, "because we don't want to rule. We want to live beside you." The room stayed quiet. Not everyone believed her, but not everyone disagreed either. Chapter 4. The Man Who Walks Between Worlds. Lance Carter traveled between planets. He didn't wear a uniform anymore. He didn't carry orders, he carried peace. He met with old enemies, with Zalari who had been freed, with pirates who had helped in the war, with soldiers who still didn't know what to do. He told them one thing: we don't need to be enemies. Most listened, some didn't, but he kept walking, because he knew if no one tried, the cycle would start again. Chapter 5. The Ghosts of War. Back on Earth, not everyone had moved on. Old groups formed in secret. They believed humanity had earned the right to rule, that after winning the war, they deserved more than peace. They called themselves the Ascendancy. They worked in shadows. They took old weapons. They reached out to forgotten colonies, and they waited. Rachel found their messages by accident. She read them. "We proved our strength. Now we must claim our destiny." She showed them to Marcus. He read them and clenched his fists. "They're already starting," he said. Rachel looked at him. "We stopped them." Marcus nodded. "We will." Chapter 6. The Code of Peace. Rachel and Marcus worked with the council. They pushed for laws, rules that all humans had to follow when traveling the stars. No conquest, no forced change, no control over others. They called it the Unity Charter. Many signed it, some did not. But it was a start. Rachel stood before the council and spoke. "We are not perfect," she said. "We make mistakes. We fight. We hurt each other." She paused. "But we also learn. We grow. And we can choose to be better." There was silence. Then applause. Slow at first, then loud, like thunder. Chapter 7. The Edge of Fear. In deep space, something stirred. A signal pulsed. quiet, old, buried beneath starlight. Rachel picked it up while working late one night. She stared at the screen. It was not Zalari. It was older, much older. She ran tests. The signal came from far beyond known space, from a place where no ship had gone. She sent the data to Marcus. He replied within minutes. This isn't just noise. This is watching us. Rachel felt cold. She looked at the stars. Someone, or something, was listening. Chapter 8. The Echo returns Vale. The Zalari leader from the Echo returned to Luna. He looked tired, worried. The others are scared, he said. They say they hear voices. Rachel frowned. Voices? In their minds. Not like the core, but like something else. Rachel shared the signal with him. Vale studied it. This is not Zalari, he said. But it knows us. Rachel looked at him. What does it want? Vale shook his head. I don't think it wants anything yet. Rachel felt a chill. That means it's waiting. Bardornand, Chapter 9. The first crack-on. A colony near Neptune, things began to change. People started acting strange, talking about dreams they didn't remember, seeing lights that weren't there. Then came the attacks. Not from outside, from inside. Colonists turned on each other. Families split. Friends vanished. When Lance arrived, he saw the damage. He asked questions. No one had answers, only fear. He contacted Rachel. It's happening again. Rachel read his message twice. She knew what he meant. Control, but not from the Zalari. Something new. Chapter 10. The Choice. Ahead. Rachel stood before the council again. She showed them the signal. She showed them the colony reports. She told them the truth. We beat the Zalari, she said, but we are not alone. Silence filled the room. Then a voice rose. What do we do? Rachel looked around. We prepare, she said. We learn. We watch. She stepped forward. And we make sure we never become what we fought against. The council agreed. They passed new laws. They built stronger ships. They trained people to understand alien signals. And Rachel went back to her work. Because she knew one thing. The galaxy had seen many rulers. Zalari. Others before them. Now it was watching humanity, waiting to see what kind of power they would become. Chapter 1. The long road years had passed since the war ended. Humanity had changed, not just in strength but in spirit. They had fought for survival. Now they were building something new. Rachel Morgan stood on a quiet platform above Earth. She looked at the stars. Behind her, Marcus Lee walked up. You thinking about it again? He asked. Rachel nodded. The signal, she said. It's still out there. Marcus looked up. We stopped the Zalari, he said. But we're not done yet. Rachel smiled. No, she agreed. We never are. Chapter 2. A place among stars across the galaxy. Humans were no longer seen as just survivors. They were traders, explorers, diplomats. They built ships that could travel farther than ever before. They reached out to other species, not to rule them, but to understand them. Some species still feared them, others welcomed them, but most watched them carefully, because humanity had proven one thing: they could rise fast, and they could fight hard. Now, the question was, could they stay peaceful? Ursard Chapter 3. The Man Who Walks Farlance. Carter traveled through space. He didn't carry weapons anymore. He carried stories. He told people what happened during the war. He reminded them why they fought. He helped build trust between humans and others. One night he landed on a Zalari world. A young girl came up to him. Did you really help free us? She asked. Lance smiled. We all did. She looked at him with wide eyes. What should I do now? He knelt beside her. Be who you want to be, he said. Not who someone tells you to be. She nodded. And Lance kept walking. Because peace needed more than laws. It needed people who remembered. Chapter 4. The hidden voice back on Luna. Rachel worked late. She studied the old signal, the one older than the Zalari. It pulsed quietly in the dark. Waiting, watching. She ran tests. Every day. Trying to understand. One night, she found something new. The signal wasn't just watching, it was learning. From humanity. From how they fought, how they lived, how they changed. Rachel stared at the screen. They know we're here, she whispered. Marcus came in. You sure? She pointed at the data. They've been listening for a long time. Marcus sat down. So what do we do? Rachel took a breath. We keep learning. Ishar. Chapter 5. The old wounds on Earth. Some still remembered the pain of war. Old groups tried to rise again. They called themselves the Ascendancy. They believed humanity should take control. That peace made them weak. Rachel found their messages, hidden in deep networks. We proved our strength, we must use it. She showed them to Marcus. They're not gone, she said. Marcus shook his head. They won't stop unless we show them another way. Rachel looked at him. How? Marcus smiled. We make peace stronger than war. Chapter 6. The new rules. Rachel and Marcus worked with the council. They pushed for new laws. No human will use force to expand. All colonies must be built with consent. No mind control tech will ever be used again. Many signed, some refused. But it was a start. At a meeting on Mars, a leader from the Virex race spoke. I once feared humans, he said. Now I see something else. He looked around. I see hope. People clapped. Not loudly, but enough. Enough to know change was possible. Chapter 7. The Ruins. Beyond, Rachel got a message from a research team near the edge of known space. They had found something. Ruins, not Zalari. Older. Much older. She read the report. These structures. They weren't built by anyone we know. She sent a reply. I'm coming. Marcus looked at her. You think it's connected to the signal? Rachel nodded. I think it's where it came from. Chapter 8. The message in stone. The ruins were huge. Towers made of black metal. Symbols carved into stone. Lights that still blinked after thousands of years. Rachel walked through them. She felt like she was being watched. Not by eyes, by thoughts. She placed a scanner on one wall. Data began to flow. It matched the signal. Exactly. This isn't just a voice, she said. It's a memory. Marcus looked confused. A memory of what? Rachel looked at the sky. A warning. Chapter 9. The Cycle of Power. The data told a story. Long ago, another species rose. They were strong. They fought. They ruled. Then came another, stronger, faster, more cruel. The first fell, and so it went. Over and over. Each power rising, each power falling, until nothing was left but ruins. Rachel read the last line. We were the apex. Then we were forgotten. She closed her eyes. And now it's our turn. Marcus looked at her. So what do we do? Rachel looked at the stars. We break the cycle. We Sagar Chapter 10. The Future. We choose back on Earth. Rachel shared what she had learned. The council listened. Some were scared. Some were angry. But many understood. Humanity had a choice. To rise and fall like the others, or to rise and stay, too. Prove they could be powerful without being cruel, to show the galaxy that strength didn't mean control. Marcus stood beside her. We can be different, he said. If we choose to be. Rachel looked at the crowd. We don't have to be the next rulers, she said. We can be the first to share. There was silence. then applause. Slow, then loud, like thunder. Final chapter. The apex. Predator years passed. Humanity grew. They built new homes, made new friends. They traveled farther than any before them. But they never forgot. They never ruled, they never controlled, they stayed human. And in the dark, something still watched. The signal remained. Quiet, waiting. But now, it waited for something new. For a species that might finally break the cycle. As stars burned above, one truth remained. Humanity had proven they could win a war. Now they had to prove they could endure peace. And maybe, just maybe, they would be the first to truly become the galaxy's apex predator. Not through fear, but through choice.